Sanibonani, Nosipho. Welcome back to my channel. Hey guys, it's been a while. I know you guys haven't seen my face in a while, and even the last video that I did was a campaign video, so nothing really heart to heart, nothing really personal, nothing real. And since then, I've been in a very difficult, very dark space. And that's why I just haven't been making content. I haven't been making any social media content. If you look at my Instagram, it literally is just an array of recycled posts of when I posted something at some given point in time and have repurposed it and reposted it, because just putting on a full face of makeup or dressing up to look nice to take a picture, a struggle. I haven't filmed a YouTube video because trying to muster the right energy to be captivating, to be fun, to be engaging has just not been something I have been capable of seeing myself doing for a very long time. But I'm here to share a little bit of my story with you. I guess it includes how internship has been, why I've been gone, and how things are getting a little bit better for me. So if you're interested in my little welcome back party to myself, then do keep watching. Thank you so much to all of you who, even though I have been completely AWOL and without any real explanation, have still been supporting my channel, are still part of that notification gang, still care, still love me. I appreciate you all so much, and thank you so much for visiting my channel again. And to all of you that are newbies, that are a first timer on my channel, welcome to my channel. I hope you guys do enjoy it here. I know this is a very depressing video to maybe come to know me by, but hey, these are real life issues. This is how real life is, and I guess I'm here to share a little bit of my real life with you guys. So I hope you guys enjoy the video, hope you learned something from it, hope you're maybe inspired a little bit by it, and I hope that this helps you in your dark space if you happen to be in one. But until the next clip, I love you all so much, and God ever stay blessing you. And I know the question then obviously would be, where have I been all this time? I genuinely have been having quite the interesting year. I wouldn't say completely rough, but definitely a growing sort of year. So if you guys have followed my journey, you know that I am a practicing medical doctor now, and I graduated last year from the University of the Witwatersrand, and I started my internship this year at Baragwanath Hospital, which is in Soweto, and it is the largest hospital in the Southern Hemisphere, and I believe the 6th largest in the world. So it's a pretty big place, and it's a lot of responsibility, and I was really excited for internship. I was looking forward to finally being the doctor that I've always dreamed that I would be one day, and having the opportunity to actually take part in the healing of patients, take part in the helping of people, take part in making people better for real. Because, you know, as a student, you spend a good amount of time in the hospitals, you spend a good amount of time interacting and dealing with patients, but you never really have any responsibility of your own. Nothing is really on you. Everything is pretty much just touch and go here. You can learn here and there, but you always have the safety net of saying, but I'm not the doctor, ask the doctor. But very quickly in internship, I realized that there is no more I'm not the doctor, ask the doctor, because the doctor now is me, and that's a very big responsibility. Like, it's an incredible profession to be called to, it's an incredible position to be in, but at the end of the day, people's lives are still at stake, and that's a very scary thought. And I think in the beginning of my internship, I started with a surgery as my first rotation. We have about 8 rotations in total, or 7 if I'm not mistaken. I'll write the correct details on the screen. Clearly my mind is not in the greatest space still, but we have 4 of those big rotations this year, and I started with surgery, which is what I want to do in the future. If you have followed my journey, I would like to be a trauma surgeon. I have been double thinking that, and I've been thinking orthopedic surgery, but basically wherever it is, it's going to land under surgery, and that's where I want to see myself in the future. So naturally, this being my passion, specifically the speciality, I really enjoyed surgery, and especially because I was doing trauma as my rotation. So I was in trauma for 3 months. It was a great experience because that's where I experienced the importance of teamwork. In our trauma unit, there were 9 interns in total, and we all worked as a team, a brilliant team, if I might add. Those people made my first month of internship such a beautiful experience. we basically were all responsible for all of the trauma patients that were in our main ward and in our outliers ward. The workload was shared. We did have a lot of calls, and the calls were long. They were 24-hour. Were 24-hour calls. So that's a pretty long time to be at the hospital. In total, it amounts to about 32 hours that you'll spend at the hospital, because obviously this is give or take the post intake, handing over patients, and whatever work you need to do before you leave. But we'd still leave the hospital by latest 10 o'clock. So even though it was hefty in the sense that there were a lot of calls, there were some calls where we were completely separate from everybody, those being ward calls. We still have them now in medicine, and thank God. I'm doing my last ward call tomorrow. I can't express how excited I am to be done with ward calls. That is one of the most terrible things that you can ever experience as an intern during internship. But anyway, I was mostly working in a team, and then those are the only times where I'd actually genuinely be alone. But other than that, those people that I went to work with every day were sharing the same struggles as me, but we all shared those struggles as a team. So it made it a lot more bearable knowing that we were all in this together. Now, fast forward to medicine, which is the rotation I'm in now, that is ending in 14 days. And I can't express how excited I am that internal medicine is ending, because this past 3 months has been so taxing on my spirit, taxing on me physically, just taxing. Like, it really tested my resilience, it tested my strength, it tested my mental state, it tested my mental strength. And I found, unfortunately, that a lot of these parts and these aspects of me were completely lacking. A lot of people have asked me, a good amount of people, I won't lie, have been asking me to do a video where I discuss how internship has been for me so far, if I'm enjoying internship, how internship is at Bara. And it really just was. The past 3 months have been so challenging. In the first month of the rotation, which would have been April, I was depressed. I've never been a person who genuinely struggles with mental health, which is why this is so nerve-wracking for me to do on such a big platform. But I suppose being a person who also has a health segment on my channel, mental health is something that's really important and that's really shunned and not really focused on enough in society. So I suppose that makes me feel a little bit more confident to share my mental health issues that I went through in the past few months. And this is part of the big part of the reason why I couldn't sit in front of a camera to film anything. It's just really because I was depressed. We would joke about it in varsity, especially when we were doing psych, because medical school is hell, guys. It's atrocious. But this past 2 months was worse than that. Like, medical school was rough, but I could never say I was depressed in medical school. I could definitely say I was challenged. I could definitely say things were difficult. I could definitely say I was struggling. But never did I get to the point where out loud I would have confidently said the words, I am depressed. And in April and beginning of May, that's where I was. I was depressed. I was so sad, guys. Like, I was so my mood was low. And because I was sitting there like counting these symptoms of depression. There are 7 cardinal symptoms of depression that you focus on when you're trying to assess if somebody has clinical depression, and these symptoms need to last for a total of 14 days or 2 weeks without break in between. And I just sat there and I was just counting that my mood was low, that I wasn't sleeping well, that I just felt agitated all the time, that I didn't find pleasure in anything, and mind you, you only need 4 of these symptoms, hey? So by the time that I was done, I was on 6, and I was just sitting there like, man, I'm depressed. And the thing that made it so dark for me is internal medicine, because of the structure and because of how it works and how it was so overwhelming, because I went from a place where we had a team structure and a supportive team to a place where you are an individual and you are an intern who's alone and you own patients. That was so nerve-wracking for me, because I was alone. I mean, I did have my clinical partner, but there still was a lot of instances where we'd be independently by ourselves and have to sort out our own patients and things like that, which just made me really struggle because I didn't realize how much I depended on the team that I was on with in trauma, to now being in a situation where I'm all by myself. And the way that the internal medicine system is structured at Bara is not very great. It's not very friendly to interns. Especially, I'd say this, like me saying you own patients, basically you get handed over patients when you start the rotation, so you take over from an intern who owns patients. And those patients' numbers are not capped. So you can literally own as many as 50, 60 patients on your own, but obviously those 50, 60 patients being owned by you means you have to do all the work for those 50, 60 patients, which is the size of pretty much the main trauma ward can be patients that are owned by a single individual. And then these patients are spread throughout the hospital, so you literally spend half the day walking to find the patients, then another half of the day seeing the patients, and then you also have to do the ward work. Granted, for us it wasn't so bad because when COVID hit and the lockdown hit, it limited the amount of people that were coming to the hospital, and the people that were presenting were mainly people that were actually genuinely very sick and couldn't stay at home, because we have a lot of people presenting loosely. People present for really silly things to the hospital, so when they're not very sick, they may end up coming because of the freedom of movement. But when movement was limited, now only the really sick people were taking the trip to come to hospital to seek attention and to seek help. So the numbers never got to the 50s and the 60s like they used to, and the most amount of patients I think I owned as an individual is probably like 25. So the pressure of internal medicine was just such that it put me in a very, very dark place. And I think the thing that scared me the most about the situation in internal medicine was that it made me not love my job. And that for me was such a scary thing, because I could never imagine myself in a world where the thing that I'm passionate about and the thing that I love could bring me the most grief. Waking up in the morning to go to work was such a struggle. Every morning I'd wake up and think, maybe today should be the day that I make an excuse and say that I'm sick. Maybe today should be the day that I take sick leave. What is it that I'm going to do? And I guess compounded with that is that we only get 7 days of leave every 3 months. So my leave I took now in this week where my birthday was around. So obviously the rotation having started in April, there was still the whole of April to go, the whole of May to go, and the first week of June to go before I could take a break. And it was so daunting for me to wake up and do my job every day. And the thing that made me even more sad was how I was feeling reflected on the way that I cared for my patients. And that's such a scary thing, because you don't want to be in a position where the system can change you. The healthcare system in South Africa is a very difficult one, and it's not too friendly on the healthcare practitioners that are in it, nurses, doctors, everybody alike. Everybody's affected negatively by the system, and it's a very difficult place to work. But the hope is that even if you struggle through the system, you will stick it out, and you'll still come out of the end of this period, or the time that you have to spend in a state-owned institution, in this case at Bara, the 2 years of internship I have to spend there. I really would not have wanted to come out on the other end of it a bad doctor, a bitter doctor, an angry doctor, one of the doctors people are always talking about, who doesn't treat patients well, who's not mindful of patients, who doesn't care for patients. But because of the place where I was in personally, it was really affecting how well I could do my job. I mean, I wasn't being rude to my patients or being mean to my patients or anything of that nature, but I just didn't have the drive to do my best for them. So I was just doing the bare minimum, doing what was expected of me, but not going above and beyond like I normally would, which is in my nature, which is in my character. I just couldn't. And this was so difficult to come to terms with for me, because at some points it made me doubt whether or not I was even in the right profession, made me doubt if I was even in the right place, and made me doubt whether or not I would enjoy what I was going to be doing for the rest of my life, which was very scary. And I think that scaring me also just made everything else in life so dark, because I was no longer enjoying the thing that I love most, and the thing that is taking the most of my time, or the thing that I love most career-wise rather, and the thing that was taking the most of my time, I couldn't enjoy the rest of life. Which is why sitting in front of a camera for me to smile and wave and make jest with you guys, deliver information, make beauty videos, just do anything was not something that I could really think I wanted to sit down and do. And I knew that like it was being not so great of me to just disappear and not say anything on my channel, especially because you have a commitment to the people that follow you. People that follow you have taken their time to click subscribe, have taken their time to appreciate you, have taken their time to say they love you, they love your content, they appreciate what you do, and you do want to do the best for them. But at the point that I was at, I wasn't even managing to do the best for myself. My relationship suffered. I wasn't speaking to my friends as often as I should. I wasn't speaking to anyone as often as I should. I genuinely just was in a very dark place, and even my relationship with my clinical partner was so strained because I was upset at work all the time. All the time. There was never a day that I wasn't snapping about something, that I wasn't annoyed about something, that I wasn't upset about something. And what really dragged me down is no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't do anything to lift my mood. And that's when I realized that, yeah, it's real. I'm depressed. I had a chat to my mom and I spoke to her about probably starting some medication for the depression to help lift my mood, so I could at least cope, because I wasn't seeing myself coping on the other end of the rotation. And I just felt like it was going to set such a negative tone for me for the rest of my rotation that I wasn't going to enjoy the rest of my internship entirely. It got to a point where I was even thinking of switching hospitals, that maybe this is the place I thought I wanted to be at, the place that I thought I would thrive in, but now all I'm doing is struggling and this place is drowning me, so maybe I should get out. I did think about taking a break from internship. Imagine, like 3 months into work, I was already thinking, well, maybe this is too much for me, maybe I'm not cut out for it. And there's nothing more painful than feeling inadequate in the one thing that you thought you'd be absolutely brilliant at. And that was where I was at. That was scary for me, and that is something that I had to deal with and something I had to come to terms with. But I mean, on the bright side of it, I'm sitting in front of this camera and I'm filming now, not because I'm 100%. I definitely would say I still struggle. I definitely am going to say, though, that I feel I have come out of the depression. I ended up not going on the antidepressant medication. What I tried to do was every day work from the inside out. When I woke up and my mind told me that I wasn't good enough anymore, that I wasn't going to be a great doctor, that I wasn't where I was meant to be, that this wasn't good for me, that I wasn't good enough, and that I wasn't good for anyone, I would say the opposite. Affirmations became my best friend. I had to affirm myself. I had to remind myself that I am capable, that I'm here because this is where I'm meant to be, that I'm strong enough, that I can, that I am enough, that I am going to be the most brilliant doctor, but this is a stepping stone, this is a learning stone, this is internship. There's never been a place where I think anyone can say internship has been easy, and I suppose the medical space isn't any less true than any other space. So I really needed to affirm myself and remind myself that I am worth a damn to myself and I can do better. And starting from there, my days got a little bit better. I won't lie. In April, we really struggled, but in May, we got a new registrar who has been somebody who I think was a big integral role in bringing me specifically out of the dark space that I was in, because she made being at work fun. She taught us well, she cared about us, we could relate to her. She was just brilliant, and I really think she reminded me how much I love medicine. She reminded me that I am a good doctor. She reminded me that I can make it through it, and she reminded me that I'm good enough. And I think that was something that was so affirming. And even just watching her and seeing how far she's come and how she's about to be a consultant in medicine and all of that, where it isn't a journey that just started there. What I'm seeing is the end of her journey, the end of her picture, the end of her story in terms of her path on her career. And I'm just at the beginning. So it just reminded me that things might get tough in the beginning. I will get roughed around the edges. I still have a lot to learn, but it doesn't mean that I'm not where I'm meant to be and that I'm not where I always was supposed to be. I'm in the right place. I'm doing the right thing. I just needed to remember that. So April was dark, but with the affirmations from May, with the new registrar in May, with actively trying to be better, because like I'm saying, my relationships with people were really affected by how my mood was. And sometimes these things that I was doing, I would do consciously, like I would snap at people, but I was conscious of the fact that I was upset. The way that I was speaking to them wasn't the best, but I'd still say it anyway. And I suppose maybe I just wanted everybody to be in the same dark space that I was, or I just wanted everybody to be unhappy like I was. I really don't know what it is, but I wasn't the person that I am, and I didn't enjoy being the person that I was at the time. So I started more consciously thinking a lot more before I spoke, taking the time to evaluate how I'm interacting with people and how I'm treating people. And that made a difference in my relationships. And it also helped the people around me to support me. Because another thing I've realized about how dark it can get when you're depressed and when you're in a very bad place with your mental health is we tend to push away the people that care about us the most. We tend to push away the people that love us, and we tend to isolate ourselves. And all that does is break down the walls of support that you could have had, break down that shoulder you could have cried on, break down the person you could have cried out to help you. And pushing away that support system just makes the depression sink in even deeper and makes that hole that you're falling into even darker and even more bottomless than it is at the time. So I really do appreciate that I changed the way that I interacted with the people around me and the people that cared for me the most, and that also helped them support me. And I really would love to appreciate my clinical partner, Ishe. I'd like to appreciate my family. I'd like to appreciate my puppies. I'd like to appreciate my friends, the people that try to be there for me, the people that, even though I really was probably the most unbearable person at the time, still suffered with me, and they still tried because they helped me come out of that really dark place that I was in, and they still continue to support me even now. I will say that things are about, maybe I would say 60% of the way that they should be. I still am struggling. I still would say that I do have some dark elements that I'm struggling with my mental health, but I'm definitely not where I was in April. And I think me doing this is another way that I think I'm taking back my power and I'm taking charge of my life, where I know that this is something that I love, it's something that I enjoy, but even the constant negative voices that I was hearing, or the negative things I was saying to myself rather, included that I wasn't good enough to do this anymore, and that nobody would watch me anymore, and that nobody would care anymore, nobody's interested anymore, I haven't been consistent, no one's going to support you anymore, which made sitting in front of this camera even more daunting and even more difficult and even more scary, because that's just another outlet that, or another door that I was opening that could bring through rejection. But it's really important for you to take back your power, even when you're struggling against yourself, because that is what mental health is, or the struggle with mental health is that you're struggling against your mind, you're struggling against yourself. And yes, there are different degrees and different grades at in terms of how bad this can get, where you're really at a point where the affirmations, the support, speaking about how you feel, engaging about how you feel, acknowledging how you feel is not enough, and you may need some medication to help support you along the way, but you're still fighting a battle with yourself, and it's a battle that you can win because you're in control. And besides you being in control, if you are a religious person or whatever higher power you believe in, that higher power is there to support you too. Me believing in God was an outlet for me too, and somebody who was also my saving grace in this dark time. And I really appreciate that my Christianity was tested during this time, because even God in the beginning, I felt, didn't make me feel better. The praying didn't feel like it was helping. Talking to God about it didn't feel like it was helping. Nothing seemed like it was working. But what I came to realize is that I was just wallowing in my sorrows, and I was glorying my sorrows, and I was glorying the things that were making me feel sad, and glorying the things that were making life dark and making things difficult, and not being grateful and spending time recognizing the positives in my life, the things that are still good in my life. Something as simple as the fact that I have job security in a time where a lot of people are losing their jobs, and a lot of people don't know what their future looks like because of the uncertainty caused by COVID-19. But I'm in a position where, for the most part, my job is safe. That is something to be utterly grateful for, and something that I definitely can smile about waking up every day. And even if it's a job that was challenging me at the time and was putting me in a very dark place at the time, it's still a job, and it's still a blessing. I still have my family, I still have my health. I did get injured over the past few weeks. You guys might have seen me wearing a moon boot, but even with that, I was still able to walk. I was still able to go to work. I was still able to manage to pull through the day every day, and that's a blessing. I have my health. I have all 4 of my limbs. That's a blessing. I work in a place where I literally could contract COVID-19 from any given patient, because our screening is not great, and we definitely aren't working in the safest of environments. But I haven't. I've tested negative twice when I've had to swab when I was symptomatic. That is a blessing, because I recognize that there are people that are dying from COVID-19, and it's something that's really affecting our healthcare system, but it affects a lot of families closely when they have loved ones that are sick or lose loved ones to COVID-19. It's something that's very serious, and something I can't take for granted, because I've been spared. And I really have tried to assume a position of gratitude, tried to assume a position of being grateful for what I have, being expectant of what's going to come before me, and being accepting of how the journey will not always be perfect, but in the end, the journey ultimately, hopefully, will always be worth it. So hopefully, in a nutshell, that sort of explains where I've been. That sort of explains where my mental state has been. I do want to do a mental health video where I guess in depth maybe discuss my own personal experience and cover depression and anxiety, which I think are the most things that seem to affect, or rather the things that seem to affect people the most, and the things that most people would genuinely likely benefit from, in terms of when to seek help, how to seek help, and how to recognize when you need help, and how to recognize when you're suffering and what you might be suffering from. But yeah, I know this has been like a little bit tense. I'm not like my usual bubbly self, but I'm getting there. And I definitely am trying, one day at a time, one step at a time, to slowly get back to being myself again. And that in itself is a journey that I will hopefully learn from, and that I hopefully on the other end of this whole experience will be all the much better off for it.